for some more X-Files talk. What's up, Peter?
Hey.
Do you feel like you're back in the gay club with this music?
Not really, no.
Yeah. This is like gay goth music, but I kind of dig it. Reminds me of being 19. Me painting my fingernails black. But I dig it. What's up, everyone? Sorry for the little delay. Somebody out there doesn't want the truth to be out there, because as soon as I was about to go on, my internet just went somewhere. I don't know where, but it's back now. I'm finishing my salad that I had to stop eating to try to fix this shit. But dudes and dudettes, it's that time. We have made it to season 5. And Pete, I know we usually save this for the last episode when we're done talking about all of the whole season. But I gotta say, dude, this is my favorite season so far. I just flew through this. I think I finished it in like 3-4 days. I loved it.
Okay, it's a pretty short one too.
It is a short season. I mean, it's only 4 episodes shorter, but still, it was a struggle to get through season 4. There's a big lull in the middle of season 4. Then it gets good again. This one, just when it gets going, it doesn't let up. So,
yeah,
really,
well, I think it's because the whole thing was planned pretty well in advance, because the intention was for it to lead up to the movie. So yes. I think it was more carefully constructed.
Could be. All I know is that I really, really loved it. And we are going to talk tonight, guys, about episodes 1 through 5. Usually we do 6 episodes, but season 5 only has 20 episodes, so we're going to break it up in 5s because I am somewhat good at math. And we have the episodes that we're going to be looking at tonight are Redux and Redux 2 and Unusual Suspects in Detour and the Postmodern Prometheus. So that's what we are looking at tonight. Thank you, those of you who join us every week. Like I always say, we have this small but loyal listenership fan base. And you guys are awesome because, this is just a labor of our love for this very cool show. And it's so cool that some of you dig it and you listen. So leave comments. As always, tell us what your favorite episodes are of the season. And we're going to get to it. We are going to get straight to it with Redux, which picks up right where the last episode from season 4, which is called Gethsemane, ended, which was with Mulder having, quote unquote, killed himself. So this episode kind of unveils what the hell happened. It premiered on November 2nd, 1997 to 27.34 million viewers.
Highest rated episode in the series, I believe.
Just like regular episode, because I think the highest is Leonard Betts. Yeah. But
no, rated higher than Leonard Betts, actually.
No, man, Leonard Betts is the highest rated one. Because when we looked at that episode, that was one of the little tidbits. Because it came on right after the Super Bowl. So it got in that lead-in audience. So Leonard Betts is the highest rated. Now, as far as just like regular season episodes, it may be. I was actually reading about that the other day. And they mentioned which of these episodes was the highest rated. I'll look that up.
Okay.
Because I'm going to
It was the highest rated episode of the season and the second highest watched episode in terms of viewers after Leonard Betts. So
yes. Yeah. No, Leonard Betts I only know because it had that Super Bowl lead in, and like everybody watches the Super Bowl. So got a lot of ratings because of that. But 27.34, man. I mean, that's the X Files at its peak, more or less. I mean, leading up to the movie, it was no longer a cult classic or a cult show. This was like pop culture. They were on The Simpsons. They were, it blew it up into something I don't even think Chris Carter could have imagined. And this episode, speaking of Chris Carter, the man, he wrote it, directed by R.W. Goodwin, and the synopsis is that Scully helps Mulder to fake his own death in an effort to discover which members of the FBI they can trust before the agents individually search for an answer to Scully's cancer. 8.8 rating on IMDb. So I'm going to let Pete go on this one, and then I'll add some notes at the end. Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, so our season 4 cliffhanger was Scully testifying to an FBI committee that basically Mulder's work was not valid, and that apparently, distraught by the fact that his whole life is a lie, he took his own life with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Now, of course, we know Mulder's not going to die because they were already shooting the movie by this point. But what exactly happened to Mulder? We know that Scully is probably in on it because she identified the body. And indeed, that's basically what the first part of the episode really clears up. We see Mulder in his apartment alone, getting all weepy, watching a Bigfoot video, depressed over the fact that he's been a tool, basically, who has been led to believe in this alien conspiracy in order to further a government agenda. But then he gets a phone call from his buddy in the Justice Department who gave him all this information and warns him that his life is in danger. And he realizes that someone in the apartment above him is spying on him. So he goes up and confronts him and shoots him dead. And then he calls Scully, and they decide to use this opportunity to fake his death. They blow off the agent's face, and Scully misidentifies the body, which allows Mulder time to do some research and find out who he can trust. A twist to this, though, the story takes a kind of a twist halfway through this episode, is that Scully mentions that she believes that the same people responsible for driving Mulder to suicide are responsible for her cancer, and then dramatically she gets a nosebleed and collapses. So she winds up in the hospital, and from here the rest of this two-parter really becomes about Mulder trying to find a cure for Scully's cancer and exposing who in the FBI is ratting them out. And in this episode, he breaks into the Department of Defense. I think he does this by taking the ID from the guy that was spying on him. And he gains access to the Department of Defense and finds a secret tunnel to the Pentagon where he finds this huge evidence room full of like fake alien shit. But he also tracks down this vial of liquid that he's been led to believe is the cure to Scully's cancer. The end of the episode, we find out it is in fact just ionized water. So what was the point of all this? We will have to wait because this is a two-parter. But as far as season premieres goes, pretty solid. It wrapped up the cliffhanger, but it didn't tell you everything. It took a twist that was not really indicated to be coming in the previous episode. So it resolved the main point of the cliffhanger, but definitely gave you more to look forward to in terms of story, and did keep you guessing. Nothing is quite resolved yet.
I'm with you. I liked it. I don't think I liked it as much as you did. I gave it 2.5 stars, and I just said how much I love this season. But I thought that this was a whole lot of setup, and that's what these long two, or this one's actually like a three-part episode do. They have a
Yeah.
lot of setup, a lot of just sitting around in board meetings, and Mulder going to see Scully in the hospital, and telling her how much he cares about her, and she's telling him that don't trust Skinner, don't trust this, don't this. So there's a lot of posturing, X-Files style posturing in this episode that we've seen a million times before. So didn't interest me that much. I liked the next episode a little bit better, although the character of Ostenhoff is pretty cool. I liked how Mulder was able to go into that, Defense Department, Department of Defense headquarters to try to, get that cure for Scully's cancer. And this guy, he's an interesting character because you don't know if he was working for the good or the bad. He's a little bit scared himself. He's kind of like a whistleblower. We get a few elements that are cool with the cigarette smoking man not believing that Mulder's dead, and Mulder finding all the alien bodies. That was a cool scene. So there's a few cool visuals, but it wasn't like the most amazing season opener for me. I think that they could have resolved this story in two episodes, and this third one feels a little bit like filler, but I still dug it. I mean, it's all right. It's all right. So I'm just gonna move right ahead to Redux 2, which I liked a little bit more. This had 24.84 million viewers. It has a higher rating on IMDb, 9.2, written by Chris Carter and directed by Kim Manners. So with Scully hospitalized, so she's kind of out of the picture for most of these episodes, Mulder is offered a deal to join the cigarette smoking man and is told by Section Chief Blevins to name Assistant Director Skinner as the man responsible for Scully's cancer at a forthcoming FBI hearing, because they find out that Mulder's alive. So of course they want to bring him in and be like, "What's going on?" When Mulder instead names Blevins, oh, well, this synopsis gives you everything. Both the section chief and the cigarette
Yeah.
smoker are shot before Scully begins to recover. Now, dude, this one I dug a lot more. This is where the pieces really start moving. Mulder's not dead and he's not taking any shit. He wants the truth.
Yes. But
Uh,
he's in deep shit though because he killed a government employee.
yes. Yeah, he killed him, and he was managed to move his body from like the upstairs to the downstairs of his apartment pretty well. Now,
Yeah.
something yeah, like nobody noticed that he's carrying this man, down a flight of stairs. Although a lot of stuff happens in this apartment that a lot of people don't notice. Like X gets shot in the hallway. Like I don't know, a whole lot of stuff happens,
Yeah.
which always makes me wonder. I don't know, for all the X-Files fans out there. So as much as we love the show, it's still in the end a show, and it's got its show flaws, and we need to suspend our level of disbelief here. But I always thought it's funny how open this apartment is. Like he doesn't lock the door. Just seems like a regular old apartment. It's like like my house in Butonta. Like if I was involved in as much stuff as Mulder and Scully are involved in, I would be living like in a fortress, like they have down here in São Paulo, like these guarded, gated communities. I wouldn't, not just old brownstone, in Washington, that anybody can just walk up and down. Like so many people break into his apartment. Sometimes even Skinner's. Hasn't he opened the door and Skinner's been in his apartment? It's like, dude, that part is funny. That always cracks me up. How little security they have in their homes. Um, but yes, he's in deep shit. He's not taking any shit, and Scully doesn't believe in Skinner. And I love these scenes because rewatching this, I'm realizing, okay, Skinner's been on their side since the beginning, but I remember when I was
Hmm.
little and watching his first run. Me and my brother and I think my mom used to watch it too, and we would always be in doubt as to what side Skinner was on. And rewatching it now, it's like it's pretty clear he's on their side. But this episode definitely put some things in doubt. So I was like, okay, I must have seen this episode when I was little or a few others that really made me wonder, like, is Skinner really a friend or not? So I like this scene only because of that. It gave me that kind of nostalgia of like, oh yeah, I do remember kind of debating, is Skinner working for the good guys or the bad guys? Um, I like that Critchkow testimony was really strong. Great actor, great scenes. I Again, a little bit more interesting than what was going on in the um, in the first episode. That's
Right.
just setting the table. This stuff is making the plot move forward. It's played by John Finn. John Finn was playing Michael Critchkow, I believe. Yes, and um, oh, and then we get Bill and Mulder scene, which is really great.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's another standout scene where we understand why this guy doesn't like Mulder. Why, he's already lost people to this guy. He's one of those people that wherever he goes, trouble follows. It's almost like Rick from The Walking Dead. It's like you want to follow the guy, but wherever he goes, where this group of people go, bad shit happens. They were all chilling on the farm till they showed up. They were all chilling in the prison till they showed up. So you kind of wonder, hey, is Rick and his group like the group you really want to be hanging out with? So Mulder's got a little bit of that. Whoever gets involved with Mulder really has a hard time, except for Mulder. He seems to come out okay. Um, Another great scene from this: cigarette smoking man bringing Samantha back and revealing that
Hmm.
he's her father. That's another like what the fuck moment. Like, wait a second, wasn't she being cloned? Uh, what is this? So great scenes there between her and Mulder. The company doing some good acting, really convincing. Because he really just wants her to go back with him, and she's like, I can't go back because I don't know. Um, I don't know who I am exactly. I don't know what's happened. And the cigarette smoking man's my dad, and he's been good to me. And you're telling me he's this evil guy and this and that. So she can't stay with him. So that's really really intense. And then cigarette smoking man going full on Palpatine. Join me or maybe Vader. Well, he does go full on Vader in a later season, but join the dark side. I can help save Scully's life, and we can help you if you only work for us. So we start to get more tidbits of this relationship between the cigarette smoking man and Mulder. And he actually says, I created him, which
Yeah.
is kind of funny considering what we find out later about the cigarette smoking man's true relationship to Mulder. Um, so we see why he's so protective of him and why he won't let them just kill him. So that's really awesome. And just a few random notes uh, is that the fat man, what happened to him? His teeth were all missing, like the well-fed man, they call him, one of the from the syndicate.
Yeah.
He looked terrible, man. He had a bad year off. He came back toothless and shaking. Like, what happened to this guy? But anyway, that's just a little thing that I noticed. And at the end of the episode, cigarette smoking man gets shot. The section chief gets shot after Mulder uh, doesn't name Skinner, of course he's not going to name Skinner, but the buildup was so great that even though I
Yeah.
love it when you know the answer, but you're still not sure. Like, wait, is he going to name him? Like, I'm damn sure he's not. But it's so well done that even after having watched it and even knowing that Skinner is still in season 11, um, really well done. It still gave me a lot of suspense. And of course, no body was found with the cigarette smoking man, so you know he'll be back. But
Yeah.
it felt like a season finale. Like it was that good. This episode, it just had all the feels. Great emotional moments, great action moments. Scully's cancer finally gets cured. We get some. We also get a little bit of lone gunman action in there, just to really fill up the plot and the great moments of this episode. So I dig it. Redux Part One, it was okay. Didn't bore me, but Redux Part Two, I was like, okay, I dug this. This is a way better episode.
Yeah, yeah, I agree that it was better. Probably I'd rate it second out of the three parts of this three-parter, but better than the season one or season five premiere. Three parts I really liked about this. First, well, actually, the overall tone. It's like, okay, if Mulder's alive, then he's got some. Both him and Scully got some serious fucking explaining to do, because now, okay, he's not dead, but obviously, Mulder killed somebody to fake his own death, and Scully helped him do it by lying. So now they're both in really deep shit. So there's how they get out of that, which is, of course, the cigarette man coming to him and offering an opportunity to quit the FBI and join him, whereas Blevins makes his offer to just name Skinner as the man who gave Scully cancer. So Mulder has this choice to make, or two choices, or maybe a third option will present itself. I love Bill Mulder. His You could just see his disdain for Mulder the second he goes to the hospital and he sees him waiting
Mm-hmm.
there, just like, oh, this fucking guy.
Uncle
Yeah,
Scully.
yes, Bill Scully. Sorry, yes. Yeah, you can just see his disdain. He basically, and the thing is, he has no hope. Mulder's there because he may actually have a solution to save her life, and Bill doesn't want to try it. He thinks Mulder's a crackpot. Everything that's happened to Scully is his fault, and he just wants her to die with dignity. Doesn't want her to be subjected to any more of Mulder's insanity, whatever it is. So, cure or not, he doesn't want anything to do with Mulder. Um, the cigarette smoking man and Samantha thing, we've had so much teasing of what actually happened to Samantha. I don't believe the show ever provides a concrete resolution, but I think this is the most plausible. I think this really was Samantha, and she was taken by the government, not aliens, and experimented on and cloned. And after that, Spender raised her as his daughter. That seems like the most plausible thing. So, if you want a resolution to that, I think we kind of get it here. They don't come out and say it, but it seems like the most likely explanation. And the syndicate turns on our boy, the smoking man.
Oh
There's this
yes.
nice, yeah, nice shot of him looking at a picture of Samantha, getting all nostalgic, and then kaboom. But of course, they find no body, so yeah, he's back. It's like Darth Vader spinning away from the Death Star at the end of the first Star Wars. You got to keep the guy alive. He's too good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, overall, it had a lot of great moments. It gave us resolutions, not only in terms of Samantha and Scully's cancer, but also a little bit more into what's going on inside the FBI, with the revelation that Blevins was on the contract of this big pharmaceutical
Yeah,
company for
Ralph.
years. Yes, and they're all tied up in this. So yeah, it delivered the goods.
Yeah, dug it. I was so shocked by the ending because it's one of those that it's been so long, man. I don't know how these end. Like these episodes start, and I'm like, okay, I definitely remember this, but I have no clue how it's all going to wrap up and how they're going to resolve all of this. In fact, how did Mulder and Scully get off on the murder stuff? I even forgot that, and I just watched it
I
like
I
2 days
think
ago.
I think Blevins being exposed as the traitor just gave their story credibility because he was the one who was trying to hang them for it in the first place.
Hmm. I got you. I got you. But yeah, and I guess Mulder could have just said it was self defense. I don't know. But I forgot to change my little slide there. But definitely not a bad Mythos episode. And I'm glad we resolved the whole Scully cancer thing because I mean, as much as I love Gillian Anderson's acting, oh, it's so depressing. And it's one of my qualms with the later seasons, like I think season 9. She's so down all the time. She's got this baby, and Mulder's not there. And I mean, we'll definitely talk about that when we get to season 9. But memories that I have of season 9 are that of her just being so depressed and
Mm.
down all the time. Um, and she's such a vibrant character that I was just getting tired of it. I was like, come on, I need my Scully back in full force. And she does come back. But before she comes back, we have this little classic episode. At least for me, it was classic. I loved it. And it's called The Unusual Suspects. And it premiered on November 16th, 1997, set in 1989. Oh, now I get it. Dude, I've been following the wiki page all this time, and there's like two dates
Yeah.
all the time. November 9th, 1997, and then date, October 1997. I'm like, what are these two dates? Now I get it. It's when it's supposed to be set in the series. Aha. That took
Ah,
me long. Okay. Because I'm like, wait, did it premiere on two dates, or is the one date when they produced it, and then the next date when it premiered? I was confused. So now I get it. Okay. So this episode premiered on November 16th, 1997, but it's set in May 1989. 21.7 million people watched it, written by our man Vince Gilligan, directed by Kim Manners, got an 8.6 IMDb rating. Two salesmen and a federal employee join forces when they meet Suzanne Modeski, a woman who claims that she is being pursued by her violent ex-boyfriend Fox Mulder with his 80s hairdo. And I'm gonna let Pete go off on this. It's a bit of a origins
yeah.
episode.
Yes, it's the secret origins of the lone gunmen, not only how they came together, but also how they met Mulder.
Yes.
It's kind of a first in a lot of ways. This is, I believe, the first because they did this in subsequent episodes, but this is the first episode that was actually set before the start of the series.
Mhm.
Something that they would do again, and this was actually necessitated by the fact that they were shooting the movie at the time, and Gillian Anderson still had some scenes to shoot, so
Mhm.
they needed to do an episode without Scully. So Vince Gilligan came up with this idea. It's also the first, but not the last, crossover episode. This episode features a guest appearance by Richard Belzer playing his character Detective Munch from Homicide: Life on the Street. And that is actually how the episode begins. It begins with the police raiding this warehouse where Mulder's like in a psychotic state, screaming, they're here. And he gets taken into custody along with the lone gunman. And then it cuts to a scene of the dude from Homicide interviewing, I believe it's Langley, about what actually happened. And then we get this flashback story to what brought them to that particular point. So, yes, two major firsts here. And yeah, the main story starts at an electronics convention where Byers is working for the FCC and he's got his own booth. And Frohickey and Langley are like, they're like competing electronics vendors. They sell like improvised electronics like to hack cable and shit like that. And they're kind of rivals, so they're not buddies at this point. And at some point, Langley gets taken with this beautiful woman alone at the convention, and she seeks his help escaping from her abusive boyfriend and helping find her kidnapped daughter. And in order to do that, Langley accesses some Department of Defense computers, hacks into them. What he doesn't know, of course, it's later revealed that she has no daughter. The woman she's looking for information on is her. And she is actually a former government scientist who has some vital information on the project she's working on. She's been framed for murder, and Mulder is investigating this. And over the course of the episode, of course, he actually winds up teaming up with the lone gunman to help Suzanne expose this government project, which, of course, doesn't actually go exactly as planned. We know from the beginning of the episode. So, overall thoughts. Don't particularly want an entire lone gunman episode, but if they're going to have one, this is kind of the story that you'd like to see, like an origin story, something that says how they came to be together, how they came to be Mulder's confidants. I do just love, like, despite the fact that they're really good at what they do, they are still such nerds. Like, some of their dialogue in this episode is hilarious. Like, whose kung fu is better?
I
They had
wrote
some
that
funny
down.
lines,
Your
some
food is the best. Yes.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, in many ways, they are like the perfect complement to Mulder because he's kind of a nerd too. So they kind of gel right away.
Exactly. And he's just a better looking nerd. And I think they did so much
Yeah,
hero work that they have for Mulder. Um, I had totally, again, another episode I totally forgot about, but totally deserving because The Lone Gunman had become so popular that they even got a show, but I think it only lasted like 12 episodes. So it's tough for them to carry a
yeah,
whole show. But it was so exciting anytime that you saw The Lone Gunman. They had so many fans, including Joey Ramone. I think I was watching one of the behind the scenes things, and the guy who plays Langley, he was talking about wearing the Ramones T-shirt, but how it would be difficult to wear it due to copyright. But
right.
Joey Ramone gave his blessing, and he said no. He was a huge fan of their characters. He would actually specifically watch any episodes that they were in. I forgot if he got them mailed to him. Some real tight connection he had with these guys, and so that's why when he started wearing the Ramones T-shirt a whole lot more, and so that's kind of cool. He's got Joey's blessings. And 1989, man, good year actually for Ramones. Still in '89, they were still going at it strong. Um,
Hmm.
And not only is it an origin story for the lone gunman, it's a Mulder origin story. Because this is Mulder before the he became
Yeah.
Spooky Mulder. And it almost uh, it sprinkles a little bit of doubt as to, hey, did Mulder become Spooky Mulder just because of the information that he got, or maybe some of the drugs that were injected into him? Because that's the whole conspiracy, is that apparently this company is going to test some type of drug or hallucinogen or something. Somebody wrote here on the wiki page, which was kind of cool. He said um, it should be added that the aerosolized gas is termed ergotamine, causing side effects of paranoia and anxiety, and that's Mulder's character, which he didn't seem like he was that like that before this. This is a throwback to season four's episode Never Again, in which a man in Philadelphia receives a tattoo, which turns out to have the parasite ergot in the ink. This in turn causes him to contract ergotism, auditory hallucinations, and paranoia, ultimately causing him to blah, blah, blah. So, um, yeah, it just made me wonder, like, okay, what if this is the reason why Mulder became the Mulder that we know, because he just got injected with drugs? Because remember, when the folks were coming in to do the cleanup, he Mulder thought they were aliens, you know. So who knows? Um, and we get Mr. X, man. He shows up. I mean, this episode was so cool. Like, there's so much cool stuff going on, you know, because Mr. X comes in to take what's her name, Modesky, as they're trying to, when they finally find the boxes with all the aerosol in there, and he's about to kill the gunman, the lone gunman, and he's got some great lines of dialogue. He's still an asshole, but you know, he's just like, don't tell anybody. But he doesn't kill him, thank goodness. But it was so good to see him. He's such a badass character, and just a cool origin story. I mean, some of the stuff that I really loved, Lord Manhammer Langley. That's like his his Dungeons and Dragons name. You know, I love that scene where they're gonna try to find Langley, and then they're all betting, and you think, okay, they're like in the back room betting on something like poker or some game, and they're betting on Dungeons and Dragons. I'm like, these guys are like the ultimate geeks, so great. And it's all the conspiracy thrown at you at once with Modesky. You know, the old Gideon Bible in every hotel room for hotel surveillance. And, you know, this is the beginning of all this information coming out. And then Mulder is receiving it, and he sits down at the end with these guys, and he's like, tell me the rest, tell me the rest. And the thing with Bowser, I got so excited because I was such a huge fan of Homicide, Life on the Streets. I actually like that show more than The Wire, which is written by the same guy, but I really, really loved Homicide. And Bowser is such a great character, and it says here that Bowser. I keep calling him Bowser. Belzer. Richard Belzer set a TV record by becoming the first person to play the same character on 3 different primetime series during the same week. Detective John Munch appeared on the Law and Order Homicide crossover Baby It's You on November 12th and 14th, followed by this episode on the 16th. So he was all over TV. And it was so exciting to see him. I love his character. Um, so I don't know. I gave this episode 5 stars. I just fell in love with it. Everything about it was cool. Modesky was so hot too. It was so funny to see the 3 guys just oozing over her. And uh, who gets a kiss at the end? Is it Byers? I think Byers gets a kiss. You know, he was the first one she contacted and fell in love with. But Frohickey and Langley are all, you know, 30-year-old virgins who just, well, they're all 30-year-old virgins who just wish they could have a woman this hot for themselves all the time. Later they get Scully, which is a little bit better. Pete, is Mulder, no, Mulder's not a virgin, right? You think, has he been laid on the show? Oh, there's Pete. Has
Yeah.
Mulder been laid on the show? Because I get this feeling that even Mulder might be a virgin. I mean, there was that episode with the vampires, but I don't know if he's screwed in that episode. Not sure. Pete's internet connection just kind of went down a little bit, guys. We are having some internet fun today because 5 minutes before we were supposed to go on, mine died, and Pete had mentioned that his has been on and off, so he's there. He'll be back on as soon as he can. But 5 stars for me. And those of you that do listen, please comment below. Tell us what your favorite episodes are from this batch. Um, and we have done Redux, Redux 2. We just saw the Unusual Suspects, which again, a little call out to the usual suspects, I imagine. And now we're looking at Detour. And then after that, we'll be looking at Modern Prometheus. Oh, there's Pete again. All right, let's see if now he's back on for good. But yes, guys, sometimes they don't want us to get the truth out there to you. It's funny, but that these tech issues happen only during the X Files broadcast, because we do a broadcast every other Monday about our life down here in Brazil, and things appear to be to work fine for those. We're on like for 2 hours sometimes, and it goes on without a hitch. So very bizarre. So Detour is the fourth episode of the X Files, season 5, written by Frank Sputnitz and directed by Brett Bausler. It premiered on November 23rd, 1997. It's a Monster of the Week episode, like our first bona fide Monster of the Week, Mulder and Scully out doing their thing type of episode. While traveling to a conference with Scully and 2 other FBI agents, Mulder stops at a roadblock to join a nearby investigation of attacks by an unidentified predator. And this one has an 8.4 rating on IMDb. Another episode that I had sort of forgotten about, but as soon as the plot beats started coming, I was like, oh shit, I remember this episode. Not only do I remember it, I remember how it scared the crap out of me when I was young, because I lived in southern New Jersey and there were a lot of woods there, and I played a lot in the woods, and just knowing that there could be stuff out there, there's the Jersey Devil and there's all these legends of out in the woods, it would scare the crap out of me. So I remember the face in the tree man scared the hell out of me as a kid. So Mulder and Scully, they're in the car, they're on a team building exercise that they don't want to be in. We got Stone Cipher and this other agent that are taking them, that are so gung-ho about these team building exercises. And Mulder and Scully just can't wait to get out of this car, Mulder especially. So he does get out when he sees this roadblock. And there's an investigation going on because bodies are missing. There's a really great opening sequence with these people that are being killed by something out in the woods. And we hadn't been back out in the woods in a long time. So this is a little bit harkening back to Darkness Falls and that other episode where the things come out, like there's a volcano and there's a fungus that goes into people and it comes out of their mouth. So, and then we're kind of stuck out in the woods for that too. And so, yeah, we're back out in the woods of Canada and we're trying to hunt this predator. What is it? Is it human? Is it animal? We don't know, or the agents don't know. It can camouflage itself very well into the forest. We get a little bit of a cool thing for me, because I'm a big Star Trek fan. We get a very young Stamets. If you're a fan of Star Trek Discovery, it's our boy, what the hell is his name? I had a total blank out here. Anthony Rapp. Okay, so a very young Anthony Rapp has this cool little kind of heat detector device that he's carrying around to try to help them find this monster. And at the end of the day, they can't find him because he camouflages into the forest. He pulls people down into these holes that they've dug into the ground. They separate everybody. To the point where only Mulder and Scully are out there by themselves in the woods. And we get a little bit of a redux, speaking of reduxing, of what's that episode, Pete, where they go out into they're trying to find that lake monster, and then they're stuck on that little island. Forgot the name of the episode now. But a little bit of a little bit of a redux of that, with Mulder and Scully just kind of stuck out there on their own, having some nice Mulder and Scully moments. And eventually Scully, I think, falls into a hole and she sees all these dead bodies down there, and she also sees something. Wait 1 second, Pete. Oh, never mind. I think it was season 3. And she sees something down there. So I think this is a very important episode in the Scully arc, because slowly she's been opening herself up a little bit more to the possibility um, of the paranormal. But it's Quagmire, by the way, that episode from season 3.
Hmm.
Okay, she's been opening herself a little bit more to the paranormal, but the classic X Files scene is that Scully, you take care of him, and then Mulder runs off. Or like Scully, stay here, and then Mulder runs off, and he sees all the good shit, and she doesn't. This time it's the opposite. She falls into the hole, and she sees something down there that she can't explain. And I think that helps in the development of her character throughout season 5, because we see more moments where she believes a little bit faster than she would have before. And sometimes she even pulls Mulder in. So, kind of a cool episode for that, character wise, but also just a pretty solid, scary episode. I know as a kid, it scared the shit out of me. And even watching it this time, I was a little bit uneasy because anything that moves like camouflage is just scary, dude. Pete, did you grow up near any forest? Were you like a woodsy kid growing up?
Well, I grew up in BC, but no, it wasn't really in a forest. I mean, it wasn't far to the forest. Like when I was a foster kid, my foster parents used to go on camping trips, and yeah, we'd be like way the fuck out there.
No, I used to
So
go
yeah,
camping a lot, hiking
I
a lot. Got chased by like a dude in a gorilla suit, I think, once in the forest, which was really traumatizing. Um,
okay.
yes, a weird experience. Um, So anytime that I see like with the X Files has these creatures, in fact, the episode I watched last night that I don't think I should have watched at 1 o'clock in the morning with that shadow creature, that like insect creature, the effect that they did for it
Oh yeah, yeah,
related,
that was a great episode.
man, that's scary, because that's
Yeah.
all the corner of your eye type stuff, when you're home
Yes.
alone. I used to psych myself out as a kid, looking out my bedroom window and imagining, what if a little head just popped up? You know how you psych yourself out when you're a kid just to try to scare yourself, and it's still scary. Imagine you're just, at in your house having a beer, drinking having a beer, smoking a cigarette. You look out the window, a little head pops up, a little dwarf or
Yeah.
something. You shit your pants. So the effect that they did for this monster was so cool because you don't really see it, but that's why it's so scary. So I loved it, and this is my love tour now for season 5, because I don't think I ranked one episode less than 4 stars moving ahead, and this one definitely gets 4 for me. It's a little bit rehashy, we've kind of gone down this territory before of Mulder and Scully alone out in the forest, but it's creepy fun. But Scully still says there's got to be a scientific explanation for this. But no, you saw the wood monster. What do
Well,
you
there
think of
is a
that?
scientific explanation for.
Yeah, they was like, what was it at the end? I think Mulder said it was like, they drank from the fountain of youth. The youth. Uh oh, I lost me some Pete just as he was about to go on. Let's see if he comes back on. Today is a rough one, guys. Thank you for joining us, though, if you're there. A Ponce de Leon, the Fountain of Youth, down in Florida, was it? I forgot where it is that he was looking for the Fountain of Youth. There's Pete. I hear his keyboard
All right.
clicking.
Hello, hello, hello. Yeah. So,
Go ahead.
yeah. So, as I mentioned, my internet's not great today either. Yeah. So I think Mulder hints that they might be descendants of Spanish explorers who were in the
Yes.
region hundreds of years ago, and they just like adapted. So, I mean, that's one possible scientific explanation. But as for the episode itself, yeah, it was good. It was solid. I wasn't crazy about it. I actually really liked the opening scene where they're in the car and the two keener FBI agents are actually totally looking forward to going on this team building event. And Mulder, as you can see in the gift, there's like, I want to die. I think like it's the woman who said like, when I stood on Mike's shoulders and I put that electric pencil sharpener on top of the pile, we both knew we could never have done it alone. Like they're so peppy and enthusiastic, and these two are just like, oh god, this is gonna be hell. So this is how they wind up on the case. It's not so much Mulder's curiosity for the paranormal; it's just to get out of this god awful team building event. And the funny thing is, it turns into a team building exercise. Um, Something that I wasn't crazy about is that it did kind of borrow heavily on a lot of popular aspects of horror and sci-fi fiction, particularly Predator and Aliens. I really got a bit of both of that with, tracking an enemy by radar, but not being able to see it, being separated from it. That reminded me a lot of the scene in Aliens where they're all coming through the ceiling vents and they're actually above the Marines. Reminded me a bit of that. The camouflage thing definitely reminded me a bit of Predator, but I did like the monster's lair when they find everybody under the tree. Most of them weren't dead bodies, actually. A lot of them were alive.
Yeah.
Because they were recent victims. So this is kind of vindication for Mulder that, hey, yeah, some of this weird shit that I tracked down, a lot of it actually happens. So there. But yeah, people in cocoons being fed on by monsters is always kind of creepy. So I dug it. I just thought it kind of lacked originalities in some respects.
That's cool that you said that, because you mentioned like outside material, but for me, it borrowed even from the X Files. I thought it was just stuff we had seen before, but
Right.
it was well done enough. Like you said, it was solid enough where, and there were enough good character moments that I dug it. It was a good, solid episode. Um, but the X Files does that a lot, and I've mentioned that
Yeah.
before on the show, guys. This is way back when TV, and maybe you started watching the X Files season 3, and if you were lucky enough, okay, on a rerun, you'd see an episode from season 1 or 2, but not always. So you had a little bit more liberty to kind of, reimagine something that you might have done 2, 3 years ago, but maybe didn't come out exactly as you planned, or you want to give it a different perspective, et cetera, et cetera. So this happens a lot with a lot of these old shows, Star Trek especially. I just mentioned I was a Star Trek fan, and we got a little Star Trek cameo there from Stamets, Anthony Rapp. So yes, rehashing happens. I was thinking about this too, Pete, this past week, is that it seems like everything's happening so quick because we're running through these. We're binging this show more or less, and sometimes we can tend to forget that, man, 5 years is a long fucking time, and
Yeah.
so we, when we're watching it first run, we'll forget. Sometimes we'll forget. We're old, but we forget what we watched last time. So imagine you're watching season 5 and you're watching this episode. You might not remember like some season 2, season 3 episode, especially when it comes to the mythology stuff like that. We would get totally lost with that when we were watching it first run, because it would be like 2 months, sometimes 3 months, sometimes a whole other year before we got a resolution to something from a previous season. So there's a lot of that goes on when watching the X Files. But if it's done well, if it's a good rehash, I'll give it credit, which for me this one was. I felt it was a cute little episode. And then we're going to end the night with what many consider to be a classic episode, myself included. I actually like this one a lot better than Jose Chung's, as far as kind of meta episodes. And it's the Modern Prometheus. And it
Hmm.
is the 5th episode of the 5th season of the X Files. premiered on the Fox network on November 30th, 1997. The episode was written and directed by series creator Chris Carter, and definitely his shining moment. Amazing little
Mm-hmm.
episode. And Mulder and Scully's investigation begins when a letter from a single mother leads them to a small Midwestern town where modern day Frankenstein lurks. Jerry Springer is an obsession, and Cher plays a significant part. Directed
Yeah.
by, by Chris Carter, too. It's got an 8.7 rating on IMDb. Ah, it should be higher, in my opinion. But go ahead, Pete. What do you think of
Yeah. Yeah, I love this episode, and it's the beginning of what I think. Yeah, it's the beginning of a long-running trend in the X Files. So they started, really introducing humor late in season 2, but from here on out, they do a lot of episodes that are just completely off the rails in terms of just taking these characters and putting them in situations that aren't so much intended to be humorous, but just be utterly outrageous. There's at least one at the beginning of season 6 that's just like, wow. You could kind of say Diary of a Cigarette Smoking Man is like that, but that didn't revolve around Mulder and Scully. So, yes, this story is shot in black and white, and it actually begins in the form of a comic book. So right away, we're out there. It's got the crazy 30s monster movie type music in it. And they are called to this town by this woman who saw Fox on the Jerry Springer show talking about aliens. And what's happened is that she's had an intruder in her home, and it was a monster that's known to stalk the town. And now she's pregnant, and she reveals that this is actually how her first pregnancy happened. Her son has had quite a bit of success publishing a comic book based on the local monster, who is known as the Great Mutato.
it?
And so instantly, because Mulder's a skeptic now too, so basically neither of them believe this story, because he tells her, I don't know if I believe in that stuff anymore. Scully thinks they're just trying to sell comic books, but they figure, what the hell, they're going to investigate it. And their investigation leads them to your classic mad scientist. He's got the beakers, he's got the metal conductors that go zing, and he's doing all kinds of kooky experiments in his mansion out in the woods. And we learned that the Great Mutato is indeed real. He is this product of experimentation creating life. And he's hideously deformed, and he's a big fan of Mask. He loves watching Mask because he looks just like the kid in Mask. He's got like basically a second head growing from his face. So he's a big Cher fan. And interesting trivia, he's also played by Chris Owens, who that makes at least 3 roles in this series that he played, because he plays a young cigarette smoking man, and he plays Jeffrey Spender as well. But yes, he was also the Great Mutato. So yes, what it comes down to is that the mad scientist has a brother, and he is lonely, and the mad scientist's experiments revolve around creating life. And he didn't accidentally, he created a human being, but it was kind of an abomination. So instead of destroying it, his brother decided to raise it as his own. And these attacks that have been going on around town are their attempts to create a mate, like Bride of Frankenstein, for his poor deformed boy. They're basically inseminating these women in the hopes that they'll have a kid like him. And of course, the kicker is all of these, like, who are the parents of all these children? This is my favorite scene. You look around, they're in the barn when this revelation happens, and you realize that all their DNA came from farm animals. There's like
Yes.
a chicken lady, there's a goat boy. It's like, oh man, that's fucked. So so that was classic. And yeah, it has a really great ending where they're trying to decide what to do, and they befriend the great Mutato. And because he is such a big Cher fan, they take him to see Cher in concert. And it's not the real Cher because she was not available to do it or she wanted too much money. But it was a pretty good replication. And that's a classic scene of Mulder and Scully and the Mutado at a nightclub watching Cher singing Walking in Memphis. Just crazy, wacky, off the rails episode, but it totally worked. And somehow, it still felt like the X Files.
Well, yeah, you pretty much said it all. A few things I would like to mention that just stood out to me is one, Jerry Springer guest starred.
Yeah.
So again, just showing how much the X Files had just become part of the zeitgeist at this point. It was just pop culture phenomenon because, oh shit, Pete, give me just 2 seconds. I just did something stupid. Wait up. Be right back.
No problem. Oh, right.
It's the other way from the computer music. All right, now I'm coming back. Okay, yeah, so we got a little bit of Jerry Springer, which was cool. And the guy played the doctor. If you're a fan of Seinfeld, Mr.
Yes.
Ron O'Hurley was great in that part. He played Peterson in
Yes.
Jay Peterson in the on Seinfeld, real grimy.
Elaine's boss, yeah.
Yeah, Lane's boss and catalog company entrepreneur, and so he was great. So great casting, and again a real meta episode. And yeah, and Pete's totally right. I mean, because Musings of the Cigarettes Man it's not really meta. It's more of a flashback. Like it's poking fun at itself. I think that probably would be one of the first episodes that really pokes fun at what the X Files is, and in a way, it became one of the best things that the show did. But some argue that it became a bit of its downfall, where it lost the seriousness towards the end of season 6 and 7, where it became too self-aware. When we get like the X-Files and the Cops episode, which I happen to like, but it's like, oh my God, sometimes I think they went a little bit overboard with how meta they could be. But here it's just very heartfelt, very earnest. You get Mulder wondering if he should get a hotline number because people are calling him. Mulder's not sure if he believes in aliens anymore, so now we get this new Mulder, moving ahead. Like Pete had said, he doesn't believe in this case, but it's because he's questioning everything at this point. In the same way that Scully, after her cancer, was just trying to get the most out of life, I guess that's a way you can put it. And she's starting to see. I did mention that in the last episode she saw the creatures on the ground, but I forgot that in that bowling alley episode she did see the ghost too. So she's starting to see more paranormal stuff. So it's funny because they're crossing each other in the paths. Mulder's becoming more skeptic. She's becoming more of a believer. They're not on the same page, but on opposite ends of the spectrum there. Um, Although there's a great line where Scully's like, "Is there anything you don't believe in, Mulder?" You know, after he starts to talk about vampires and this and that and everything.
Yeah.
It's like, "Is there anything that you don't believe in?" Everything about this episode over the top. I especially loved when they went to meet Dr. Polidori. The super thunder, like after every line of dialogue,
Yeah.
it's like, "Come into
Yeah.
my lab." And this is the experiment that I've been working on. Um, it's basically a rape story, but it does have a perfect ending because we do get to meet the Mutado, the great Mutado. He's a very eloquent speaker, but we can't prove that he wasn't responsible for these rapes, which really Dr. Polidori was the one that was performing on these women. So he gets locked up. And that's when Mulder, that's when the episode is like the best part of the episode. Mulder's like, wait, that can't be right. Like, where's the writer? Where's the writer? And then the story changes. All of a sudden, we're driving to the Cher concert, and it's just got all the feels, you know?
Yeah.
Emotional watching it. I think a bit for nostalgia, because I remember when I first watched this episode, when it first came on, and it was so magical. And I was like, this is what great writing should be. It's just it doesn't um, it doesn't have to be beholden to any rules if you do it well, you know. And at the time, I
Yeah.
really loved reading Faulkner and a lot of these German and French existentialists, which would be able to take a story and just play with the format, break the fourth wall. If we're going into like film, you know, Fellini, I was into at the time, so I was into like all of these artists who played with the story structure, played with the narrative structure, and the fact that Chris Carter did this for a primetime television show in 1990 whatever. It had never been done before, and it was freaking incredible. So the episode gets me emotional a little bit because of that, because of what I appreciate about good writing. And just the happy ending that should have been there and it wasn't. Like everything about it just works perfectly. It's a 5 star. It might be in the running for the top episode of the season for me. And like I said, I like it way more than Jose Chung. I know people just, they are absolutely in love with Jose Chung, and that episode has a lot of these same elements too. But this one just works a bit better. And the end scene where Mulder and Scully dance, just such a recognition of their camaraderie, their friendship, and what will eventually become their love for one another. So it's got everything. It's got everything. And it's got Cher. I love Cher. What do you think of Cher? What's your view on Cher, Pete? Oh, Pete's not on anymore. Um, Yeah, because Pete's a big music fan. I wonder what his feelings are on Cher. But for me, uh, the fact that she's the base of this episode due to her songs and also due to Mask, which is a great movie. That's a really great movie. If you have never seen it, I'm sure you have. Um, what is the song that is being played, by the way? It's um I can't find it here. Anyway, let's see if Pete came back because it'd be nice to close out the episode with him on. But guys, so weird how the internet has been tonight. Um, what's the end of this show? The sun ain't gonna shine anymore. Oh, gypsies, tramps, and thieves. They play and walking in Memphis. Okay, are the three Cher songs that are played on this episode. And I'll wait a few more minutes, guys. I mean, if you've made it this far on the in this broadcast, it's over an hour long. Then I suppose you can wait 5 minutes more. Please tell us what your favorite X Files episodes are in this little chunk from episodes 1 through 5. We went over uh, 5 episodes because this season has 20, and usually we do 6, to cut it up evenly, but we're only going to do 20. I don't know where Pete is. I'm considering ending the broadcast, and then next episode we can open with naming our skip and watch list. But let me see if I can get a hold of him via Messenger. Okay, is the internet dead? Because there's dead and then there's dead. I don't know. Let's see if he comes back on. But he might not be able to. How about we do this? While we wait, we can jam out to the Neutron Dubstep Remix. And you can find this at Neo Geo Dubstep Remix by Shadow Records. If you just put that on Google, you can find it. Hopefully, I'm not, playing anything that I shouldn't be playing. I'm always afraid of these copyright infringements. Enjoy some X-Files music. By the way, you can find me on Instagram at Ray Music. I think Pete's done for the night. Dude, that it is a nightmare in the school right now. But you know what? I'm playing along because it's a job, and I can't afford to not have a job. It just kind of sucks what may happen. I say may, but from what I understand, it's pretty definite what may go down with our fellow colleague. Freaking Lord. Oh yeah, it's intense, man. It's intense. I don't know. Just wait and see what happens. I'm enjoying this track, man. I'm over here dancing. Dancing my little butt off. All right, well, I'm gonna end the broadcast, Pete. Sorry, but I think your internet's done for the night. Until next time, y'all, and we'll do our skip and watch list next time around. Thank you for tuning in.